as you all know, the name's GhostShivs, and like, I just thought that I'll give you a little background on who I am and everything. You know, if you're gonna be like listening to my lyrics and everything, and my music, you know, I feel like you should at least have an idea who I am before you start everything. So I wouldn't just be being selfish and everything. You know, first off, my name GhostShivs. I like the term ghost because it's more defined by presence, and Shivs is a shortened version of my last name, Shivers, And I started out because I used to listen to mad music. Like, my family was mad music oriented. Like, we ain't listen to any garbage either. It was like all that top class music. Like, we listen to old school, we listen to hip hop. Like, some people will listen to, just for the fun of it. Like, if we like turned on some Wayne, we weren't really trying to, get like all deep as if we were trying to throw on some Nas or something. So then like I started out listening to that, and I guess I just, I had a snap, I had something go on in my head that told me that I could rap, I could produce music, I could write lyrics. So then I guess around the time I was 5, ever since I could write, I was always writing, and it's like everything, I was good. So around the time I was 5, I started writing, and I remember the first drum my uncle told me. He said, "This is gonna be yours." He told me, "Remember this." He told me always remember, because one day he was gonna come back and ask me, and I had to have it for him. And I was like, firing squad on the team because I spit hard. Top contender, I shot when you was finna. Little nigga, big flows, big face, big nose. And that was it. And then I added the end part. So I was young. I was like, I know your daddy got some pantyhose, even your mama knows. And like from there, I just kept going. He took me to the studio once. I think it was probably my 6th birthday. No, I don't remember when it was. Probably 6th or 7th birthday. And he was like, "Well, why you gonna be in here? You might as well be productive and everything, and you might as well be productive. Write something." He handed me a pad and a pen. I remember the pad. It was a rectangle. It was like a spiral at the top, and it had a line down the middle where you're supposed to separate it. He said, "You know how to count your bars." He was like, "Well, you just figure it out. I can leave you alone. You're a smart kid." So I was like, "Alright." I was writing, I was writing on how I was influenced. And like around the time, I was around a lot of, well, just hanging with my uncle and everything, I was, it was just some stuff that I picked up and everything. Some stuff that I picked up from other places, just like listening to him, listening to his friends and everything. And once I wrote it, I had the concept around me, and I had that down packed easy. But once I wrote it, my my uncle, he said, "Let's go." So we went somewhere real quick, and we we when we returned, this guy had the pad, and I said, "Can I get that back?" And he was like, "Oh, this yours?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "I thought this was Nalo's." My uncle's name Knowledge. And he called him Nalo. He said, "Oh, I thought this was Nalo's." He was like, "Yo, that's nice for you to be so young." And then he said, "Yo, Nalo, you read this?" And then my uncle was like, "Yeah, man, I read it. It's sick. I didn't even think he wrote it. Sound like something I would write. I might even take it." He was just joking around and everything. But then, like, I was like, "Yeah." So then we went home, and my grandma, she found my notebook. She found the pad. She was like, "She don't like me writing like that and everything." She said it's not how she want her grandson to be. So, I didn't write a lot of stuff down after that. I basically freestyled, I remember stuff. And then later on, I started writing again, probably around the time I was 13, I think. And that between the time I was 5 and 13, I was freestyling. I wrote poetry, I was freestyling, wrote short stories. I didn't really write too much of that explicit stuff because my grandma was gonna say something about it and everything. And I was always around a lot of music because of my aunt. and her friends, like she had all type of different friends, different ethnicities, backgrounds, everything. It was crazy. So then I picked up a lot of stuff from them. Listened to a lot of different sounds, and I basically got familiar and like fluent with music. So like if I heard something, like I just it would create a rhythm in my head, and it got to the point where music was everywhere I went. Like I could be walking down the street, if I heard a sound more than once, it became a beat. Like it was with that for like everything. Like listening to cars, a little engine, like rubber, everything. Like the birds chirp, I could hear the songs. I was attracted to music. It was everywhere around me. So then, guess I started writing again, and my cousin, he was like, "Oh snap!" He was always asking me to spit stuff. He was like, "Yo, son, I want to rap too." And that was around the time I was like, "Oh, well, one son." Back when I was younger, some of my favorite artists, Jay-Z, Cassidy, Nas, KRS One, Rakim, people like that. Like real lyrical ability. I always listen to them. Like when I was younger, I ain't realize it, but I memorized every verse of every Cassidy song, that he put on the radio, cause like couldn't really get CDs like that. I was young. So then I memorized his verses. One of my favorite songs was Hotel, and I ain't realize it, but like a few years, like last year, I was 14, I'm 15 now. Last year, I was listening to Hotel because my sister threw it on, and I knew the verse. I was like, yeah, I remember this verse. I didn't realize it was Cassidy though. And then, that's when I first realized, I have some favorite artists and everything. I had some people that helped bring me up, and then Cannabis too. But anyway, and then knowing everybody was like, "Yo, son, you a punchline rapper. You like Cannabis and Cassidy and all them. And somebody called me Jay Z. I got a big nose. Got past that too. I think the big nose is gorgeous. But anyway, I was like, around the time I was 13, my cousin was like, "Yo, I want to spit too." So I was like, "Alright, man." He said, "My Uncle Josh got a studio. We can ask him to hook something up for us and everything. We'll be straight. We'll be good." So then, like, we were writing. I wrote that whole summer. I was just writing stuff, memorized it. And then, once I wrote it and memorized it, we recorded one track. Then his computer crashed. Uh, I was like, on that one, I did the "No It Isn't, Yes It Is," and you'll hear that later on. I'm pretty sure we'll get that, up sometime. And we did that, and like he said, "Yo, son, we should keep writing." So every time we went somewhere, I was writing and everything, everything. If I hear something, moment of inspiration, I had a notepad, one of those legal pads. Write something, rip it out, fold it, set it to the side, go to the next page. I wrote at least 7 over a period of 2 days. 7. And I ain't even really I still don't really count my bars like that. Like I don't think I ever wrote 16s. If I wrote a 16, it was by accident. I usually like write like 23s, 32s. I remember this one I had 107, but I broke it up. It was crazy. And after that, I was basically like, let's see. I was basically hyped, and I found out that his laptop crashed. It had a track on it, had all the beats and everything. I was like, man. So then that next summer, I was in Arthur in Action. Shout out to Arthur in Action, Reach Ensemble. My boy BJ Rice Ryder. And like, I was at Arthur in Action, and they were basically like a writing program, a poetry group and everything. They did spoken word. We'll give you that a little what you call it, a little mantra or whatever, but you don't feel like doing that right now. But I stayed with them. I'm still with them. I'm supposed to be writing something right now. I got turned in at 6, because right now is November 7th. I'm supposed to be turning in at 6. It's 12:57, and like Mr. Nathan to be mad, but they helped me get my skills up a lot. And like, they used to talk about my delivery because I couldn't break the rhyme. In my head, there's a certain pattern that goes on with every word, the way I put my words together. So it's hard to break that. So I had to break that, and like, basically, I was just stuck. And Mr. Nathan, he grew. He was like, alright, man, you'll break it one day, but right now we just gonna focus on your writing. Writing. It was high, it was on a high level. But he said my work, he said my wordplay and stuff was too poetic. That at the rate that I speak, at the rate that I spit, people aren't gonna catch it after, rehear it like at least 2 or 3 times for they can start breaking stuff down. It's like, and then anyway, so I was like, alright, so I had to slow down. One of my most famous pieces was Synonymous. And that was for, we did that on commencement. That was for the house ensemble, house rules. And that had me, my sister Joy, and my man BJ Ride Easy Rice on it, and Kamisha. And like, it was basically about, well, I'll post that later. You're gonna hear that one day. I'll explain it then. But like, let's see. And I stayed with them, stayed writing, everything. And I battled numerous people. When I say like battled numerous people, I mean, I had this dude named North, Shout out to North Block. And he would call me any given time and just be like, yo, Ghost. I'll be like, yeah. He'll be like, I got somebody for you to battle, How to do it on three-way. First time I ever met the dude, he says one of my artists. I'll be like, and then, dude spit first, I'll be like, he kinda nasty. I'll rip him freestyle. And like me, I'm a good freestyler, but I can only go second, Most of the time I go second. If I have to go first, I'm gonna start off with like 5 bars that I've previously written because I just can't flow when I'm going first. I have to respond to something, I have to respond to something in the battle. Anyway, so like, and then I battled North a couple times, man. That dude, he was crazy, I remember this one time, he wrote something. He wrote like 3 rounds for me. And he was like, yo, Ghost, I'm gonna get you this time. I'm gonna get you this time, I was like, alright, we on the phone and everything. And, he's like, yo, Ghost, he's spitting this and that. And I was like, alright, that's nice freestyle. Murdered him, my freestyles is crazy. I flip what he said on him and everything. And, like, let's see, he had this one dude. I can't remember the dude's name. That dude was, he was nice. Probably the hardest battle I ever had. Except for my boy BJ Ride Easy Right. Shout out to him, say his name a lot. It's my nigga right there. So like he always had some bars for me, not necessarily his, but another artist. When I say bars, I'm speaking of like artists in general. And like that dude, that dude that I battled, one of the hardest battles I've had. And I say that battle was the hardest battle, cause dude had lyrics and he was freestyling the whole time. Me, I usually have high expectations, but those bars when he was freestyling exceeded my expectations. So I would have sat there if Jesus was there. I would have said that John was written. That dude was nice. I beat him. That dude was nice. And then I remember one time my man North, he called me up and he had his manager and his manager's manager on the phone. Battled me, tried to trash me in front of them. Didn't happen. Of course, I'm still undefeated though. And then I was like, yo, I'm getting tired of battling just North. I want you other cats too. I was like, nah, you gotta come at us hard enough. So that same phone call, 10-minute long freestyle, talking trash about everybody on there. I mean, everybody.